know that sounds cliche, but if you don't believe you can change your life, no one's going to walk up to you and say, hey, I think you can change. I think there's better things ahead. That's just not how the world works, right?
Hello everyone, this is Ibra. Welcome to the Spontaneous Talk. I know it's been a while now since I last made my last episode with Yana Herdy, and it dates from September 2020. It's about like over 6 months now, and some of you may have even forgotten about Spontaneous Talk, but not me. I know it's been a while since I even shared anything on Instagram, and but you know, I have had many things going on lately, but I believe that when we want to do something, we find time for it, or if we don't find time, we just make it, and everything has its priority, and we should work accordingly. But Spontaneous Talk is something that I'm really, is more like a project that I want to keep working on for forever. It's not something that I want to give up on that easy. I'm being patient with it, and one day it will reach out as much people as I could ever imagine. So today it's almost 1 year since I made my first interview, since I launched Spontaneous Talk and had my first guest on this podcast. And today's episode is in total is the number 10th. It's the 10th episode, and it is the number 8th on the Free Talking series. And for this event, I wanted to have a special guest, and this guest is called Eddie. This man, he has played an important role for me in the way of creating content, in the way of writing speeches on the Spontaneous Talk, and the short videos that you might have watched on Instagram and on YouTube as well. And this guy has been a true inspiration for me. Maybe he didn't know that, maybe now he does. I wanted to make this special episode today on this special occasion. So Eddie is an entrepreneur. He is a keynote speaker, speech writer, and social media consultant. He's the founder of Your World Within. It's a really impactful YouTube channel where you can find a variety of inspiring and motivational videos. It has impacted me, and I am sure it has impacted so many other people. So Eddie, welcome here today, and I'm so thankful for having you on today.
Hey, brother, thanks for having me and for that very nice introduction. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. I'm not really the best on making introductions and introducing people, so that's why I would ask you to introduce yourself to us and to our listeners in a more proper way.
Sure. Like was mentioned, my platform is Your World Within, and basically what that is it's where I share stories. I talk about sort of the trials and tribulations of life as an entrepreneur and a creator, but also as a person, and just kind of the ups and downs we go through. And I started doing that about 7 years ago now, which is weird to say, but it's been that long. And basically, I left the corporate world and I started writing music and producing videos and just doing that, just kind of feeling around, experimenting, seeing what I like to do. And when the money got tight, right, for the first time in my life, I started to say, this is my back's against a wall here. And I wrote a speech called Ode to Excellence. And that speech was basically a promise to myself. It was, Eddie, things are about to get hard, and you can go back and do what you've always done, or you can try and build something new and put your back against the wall and trust yourself that you won't let yourself fail. And that's what I did. And I started sort of writing these speeches and documenting the journey. And that became Your World Within and the platform for everything I do. And, I ended up building a business around it. I ended up working with some wonderful creators. And, people ask a lot about, whether I planned on taking that path. And it really was just the culmination of staying persistent, exploring, and doing what I both love to do and what added value to others. And that recipe seemed to pay dividends.
Yeah. And your world within, you said it's your platform, but I'm sure before it became your platform, it was just an idea at the beginning. So how did you manage to bring that idea to life and make from it a real platform?
Yeah, it was I think the most important thing I did out of the gate was decide and really try and understand what I didn't like, because and I think a lot of people can relate to this. Like, we don't know what we want to do with our lives, but we know the things that we don't like, and so I kept exploring and I kept trying things, and the things that I didn't like, I started moving them away. And the things that I did like, I started to pay more attention to and really delve into. And so, if you take any given video, and I talk about videos on YouTube because, sure, I do a lot more than that, but that's the crux of my platform, my business, and what I love and what I enjoy. And so, I get to write, tell a story, take the camera out sometimes, get visuals, produce it. I used to write the background music, and I still do when I'm like interested in really craving that musical piece. I'll create kind of a cinematic score for the thing. And so it's all these artistic things, and then you combine them, and the deliverable is something that really helps people go through whatever they're going through in their lives. And so it really was just kind of pushing forward, learning, adjusting, learning, adjusting, learning, adjusting. And if you stick with that long enough, you end up with something. And who knows what that'll be or how it will materialize. I always talk about the Hatching Twitter guys, or the book Hatching Twitter, where you have like the creators of Twitter sitting around a table. And it really stuck with me because at this point, the company's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they still don't know exactly what it is, right? But they're moving forward anyway, and they're figuring it out little by little. Is it communication? Is it a news app? Is it a electronic diary? I'm not sure, but keep moving forward, right? And ultimately, you get this sort of revolutionary application, and same thing. It's just pushing forward.
Yeah, we should not just worry about how are we going to manage things, or how are we going to plan our project. Sometimes we just need to stick to it and work day to day. We don't need a long-term plan, right?
Yeah, so I missed probably the first few seconds because Siri popped up on my laptop. But so you said sometimes we don't have a plan. What was the beginning piece?
Yeah, I said sometimes we don't always need to have a long-term plan so that we can start doing something, because many people worry about they say, man, I don't know what I'm going to do 6 months from now. I say, you really don't have to worry about what are you going to do 6 months from now with your business. I mean, a month is enough, right? I mean, it depends on your field of working or what you're working on. But sometimes even like a week is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tricky thing because what we tend to do or want to do as people is make things black or white, stick them in boxes. And I would say holistically, it is good to have a general direction. It is great to have a goal. And then it might have been Bezos who I heard say, like, you don't change the goal, you adjust and adapt along the way, right? You change your approach and how you get there because life will inevitably put obstacles in front of you. But, sometimes you have to move forward without knowing. And that's that's innately scary. It's, we don't want to waste time. We don't want to waste resources. We don't want to embarrass ourselves. We don't want to be the only one out of our friends that says, guys, I'm not sure, but sometimes that's where the beautiful stuff is. And so, yeah, you can't always know.
Why do we always want things to be all figured out and planned in prior?
Because I think we have a proclivity towards safety, and there's certainly biological evolutionary reasons for that. It's We're no longer in a situation where turbulence is the norm and being safe is like what we crave. Like now we're in a situation where things are relatively safe for us, and it's like the opposite. Now we have to create adversity, and we have to create friction so that we can grow. I really love how Jordan Peterson talks about the relationship between chaos and order. I don't know if you've heard this,
No.
but basically, if you think of it like a staircase, right? It's like when like you need both. You need chaos and you need order. And when life is too calm, you have too much order, you're not growing. There's no meaning in your life. So you have to create some type of chaos that then you can tame, master, and create order, and repeat the cycle. So you certainly need both worlds.
And now, as you were talking, I remembered someone one day saying, a messy room is a living room. It is a room where there is life. When everything is in place and there is no chaos in what we are doing, it becomes kind of boring, and we're not growing, as you said.
Yeah, I like that. So the idea is, because normally when we hear that, we hear a clean room in the context of, look, make sure your basic life is in order before you start pushing out and start moving forward. You're using the context. It's like, hey, if everything's in place, if you're scared of getting anything messy, or then you're not really living. Which is a really cool take. I mean, I agree 100% with that.
Absolutely. And sometimes we would not appreciate like the life we're living or the situation we are in right now if we haven't been through some kind of troubles in our lives. And when we start thinking about what we've been through, we realize that we would not have been able to taste like the beauty of life today if things were easier 10 years before. But even when we have this in mind, we're still afraid of something wrong going on in the future, right? I think it's more like a feeling or sort of terror that our minds puts us in order to protect us from something, from the unknown.
Right.
And this kind of fear holds back so many of us from going so far away, from reaching their dreams and from realizing so many things in their lives. And the result is that they are there, they stand wherever they they're still in the same position where they were 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's why it takes so many of us to hit rock bottom to change, because it's like, okay, life says if you're basically if you're not going to find it within yourself to make that necessary change, I'll do it for you. I'll create chaos for you. And then you're forced to level up. It's funny, as you're saying that, I don't think I've ever heard someone say, I got fired from my job and it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, which is a weird thing to say. Like, usually when something like that happens, people end up saying, and it ended up being the best thing because I got to do X, Y, or Z, or I got to look at things differently. And it is. It's like there's this invisible wall around the status quo that kind of tricks us into thinking right now is the best we can do. Right now is we need this. And there's so much on the other side. If we can just kind of learn to trust that we'll be okay. Like we'll figure it out. And if we fall down, we'll get back up. Right. And that's it really is an important thing to understand. And it's not an easy thing, but it's an important thing to understand and kind of instill into our psyche as best we can.
Yeah. And do you have any recommendation for people who I mean, it's not easy, as you said. It's not easy to accept this and to live with it. But how can someone start implementing this kind of understandings in their lives?
Yeah, I mean, I know a few techniques, and like maybe I'll talk about one real quick. But I think that it's more a like trying to step back and see things differently, right? So like one that I somewhat effective. It's called what is it called? The something ladder. It might be the ladder of fear or something like that, where you rank the thing you're most scared to do at the top. And then in kind of order, you list all the things you're afraid of. And then the very bottom rung is the thing you're a little bit afraid of, but not really. And the idea is every day you do one rung of the ladder. And what you realize is it's kind of like jumping into a cold pool. It's like at first it's terrible. And then you're like, okay, your body acclimates and you're like, this isn't so bad. I could jump into this all the time. And so it's the mindset of, it's Campbell saying that the cave you fear holds a treasure you seek. It helps your brain realize that when I do this little uncomfortable thing, the reward is huge, right? And so once you get into that mindset, and holistically, there are a few ways that I try and do that, and it's like it's realizing that none of this stuff really matters, right? Like even the stuff that I spend my time doing, the YouTube stuff, podcasting, having interviews, writing books, like it's all great. And it's helping other people. It's helping, me, get my creativity out to the world. But at the end of the day, we're pieces of flesh on a rock floating through space. Like it's not the end of the world. And so when we take away the gravity of the situation and realize, look, like it's great what we're doing, but there's so much more to life. It kind of takes some pressure off, like we tend to elevate things. We make things so much more serious than they are. The bottom line is, I could find, take the two best people in my life or the people I enjoy being around the most, go live on an island and I'd be happy, right? It's a different kind of happy, but I'd be happy. Yeah. And so when you can internalize that, I think it's incredibly helpful. We make things bigger than they are.
True. I mean, we always tend to give so much more importance to things, and they, at the end, as you say, they're just. I mean, sometimes there are some things that are just negligible. I mean, we can neglect them, and we still be alive without,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, as long as it doesn't impact our life, or it may impact the life, but we can still breathe. We can still wake up every day. We can still have purpose in life, and these things are much more powerful than anything else in the world. I believe. I mean,
yeah.
As long as we have a purpose, we can live forever.
Right. And that's sort of there's tension there, because I think both are so true. Like you can't have meaning in life without purpose, without adversity, without some journey, right? That's why I do the podcast and I write, and I feel like I'm creating something bigger than me. And I love that. And it's what I've dedicated myself to. Mm-hmm. It's where I find my meaning, and that's different for everybody. But at the same time, it's not everything, and like when you become one-dimensional, you might miss some incredible things. You might miss some places you could have gone, and you might not spend as much time with the people in your life. And so I think it's another example of things not being black and white when we wish that they would be. It's like life is complex and you need a lot of many things. Someone once gave me a metaphor. It was like, I think it was glass balls. Like if you're juggling, these glass balls, and one of them is work, one of them is family, one of them is leisure. Um, you don't want to neglect any one of these things to the point that they break, because then you find yourself in this state of, you just don't feel complete, you know? And so, yeah, it all sort of works in harmony as far as I'm concerned. And I say this coming from a place where, my work means so much to me that sometimes I neglect other things, and I have to reel myself in, and just remind myself to enjoy, and that there's more to life than this specific pursuit. Like I watched the sunrise today, small thing, but it felt big. It felt like, I can't really explain it. It felt like it was what I needed. And I went back to my studio and I was like, all right, like, it's gave me like a new perspective, a fresh set of eyes. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I don't let the stress of one dimension of your life neglect all the other beautiful things that are floating around out there, because a lot of people look back and go, ooh, I wish I paid more attention to X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, so it's more like about balance and not neglecting anything. Sometimes just doing something once in a while could change our life in a really positive way. We don't really need that much. I mean, just a hint, just few things, doing things here and there, and it will be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Eddie, your world within now is, I think it's a media production company, right? And with 100,000 views, I suppose. I don't have a specific number, but I guess it has an important amount of views per month. When you first started your world within, did you have an idea, or did you imagine where this was going to be? I mean, how things are going to be in the future, how your world within is going to look like in 10 years from where you were at the moment?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the answer is not really. It's another one of these annoying answers where I'm kind of juggling two things, right? So you want hard metrics. To your point, the numbers matter because the numbers show you that, hey, this is helping people. It's adding value to their lives, right? If I did what I did and 0 people watched every video, I might take a step back and think maybe I'm missing the mark, right? So that the numbers are incredibly valuable. And when I started, I just knew that there's only one way to go, up, right? And so now I'm at a point where about to hit 250,000 subscribers, like 36 million views. And the feeling is the exact same as when you're starting out, because there will always be another benchmark. There will always be a bigger channel. There will always be a bigger fish, someone to climb. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's great because it keeps you motivated, but I don't think it's hard to see how that can also be self-defeating, right? You never feel like you have enough. So when it comes to what I expect of the channel, I take those numbers and I see them, but I'm very delicate with them. I kind of put them in a box over to the side. And then on the other side is the creation. It's, what do you want to say that's important? Because when you're authentic, that's what matters most. And that's what I've tried to build the channel around. Not the numbers, not the subscribers, but saying things that I've gone through that I feel like will help other people and that I love doing, and I've gone through phases, just where life gets crazy and it's like, well, I should put a video out or I should create something, and 2 weeks go by and I'm putting things out, but my heart's not there. And I can tell, and I don't like that. And so that's a lesson for me as well. And it's like, you need to find that balance where you're putting out valuable content that means something to you. And you're also, making sure that the numbers are headed in the right direction. Sure. But as far as like a big benchmark at the end of the road, I don't have one. I don't have one with YouTube. There's no like number that'll make me be like, I did it. And maybe I'll look back after 1 million subscribers and say, Eddie, your perspective is wrong. You should have thought a little bit differently. But right now, with my experiences and the data, through my trials and tribulations, I feel like that's the right, what's the word? It's the right combination. You want to have both.
Yeah, and it is important, like to focus more on what's coming out from your mouth than what our people are going to say, or or how many people are going to interact with it.
Right.
Absolutely, because the message is more important than anything. As long as you are convinced with what you are doing, that's the whole thing. I mean, you don't really need a huge amount of numbers, a huge amount of viewers or followers or anything. You just need to be convinced yourself with the things you're doing, and then it may take some time, but then everything will follow.
It will take time, and you're right, it does follow. I mean, and that would be my advice to anyone starting something, or even maybe they're already knee deep in something, but they're in sort of the winter or the valley of despair. Things have sort of slowed down, and it's like, look, if you focus on authenticity, if you find that cross of what you're good at and what adds value to other people's lives, and you create that in an authentic way, the numbers will come. Which is why sometimes it's like looking in reverse to look at the numbers, because it's like, don't deviate from your superpower. And your superpower is bringing authenticity in a way that adds value to the lives of others. Numbers might guide that, but you have the pieces contained within you to build, so build.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And here, some people and some creator nowadays, they start following more the numbers, and they give more importance to the numbers than what they want to do. And they, at the end, they find themselves in a position where they don't really feel comfortable being, and they start feeling that, like, they're not fulfilled, and because they have been, like, I would not want to say faking it, but they've been doing things against their will. They've been doing things because they just want to please others, because they've been doing things just because this is what the society wants to see, right? And this it creates, like, a big problem for them after a while.
Yeah, because it feels empty.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in their situation. I wouldn't want anyone to be in that situation. But how do you think those people could get away from their situation?
Yeah, one of the best ways I've heard it described is passion versus purpose, right? So it's like, if you have what's meaningful to you, if you have your end goal laid out down the road, you're able to withstand the trials and tribulations of life. So, for example, let's start with passion. I'll back up a second. Mm-hmm. Passion is like, which maybe in that example is what a lot of people are going through. It's like exciting. It's like you start a new podcast and it's like, yeah, you get the new equipment, you turn on the webcam, things are great. You might even get a guest or two on and have a great conversation. But then 2 months go by and it hasn't blown up and it's not everywhere. And you're not Joe Rogan and you think to yourself, man, like this sucks. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. So you stop because the passion's gone and you didn't really want to be a great podcaster. You wanted success, and you can get success somewhere else. So people leave the podcast and they go somewhere else to get success. That's passion. Purpose, on the other hand, is understanding, hey, that finish line way down there is what drives me. It's what I want. And it might take 5 years. It might take 10. There are going to be days when I get my teeth kicked in. There are going to be days when I create a podcast episode or I create a video and I put it out and I think it's going to change the world and no one cares. But you keep going because it wasn't a blast of dopamine that got you up. It was, I'm in this for the long haul. This is my journey and here we go. And then what happens is, those days where you do get your teeth kicked in, they become lessons for you. And that's the difference. So when someone is in that spot, my first question is, well, what's your purpose? Are you aligned with that? Because if you're not, you need to tweak it so that it's something that you believe in and you can get excited about. There's just no way. Success in and of itself is such a tough thing because you have to overcome so much. The world wants to tell you no, and you have to repeatedly say yes. If you don't believe in something further down the road, why would you say yes? Right? You pack your bags and you move on. So that's always the first thing I ask. What's your goal? What's your purpose? What is it you're creating your meaning from? And if that's empty, you need to fill it somehow. That's sort of step one.
Yes. And how far are you willing to go?
Yeah, it's a great question.
And I haven't asked you this yet, but where did your word within come from? Like as a name?
It popped into my head when I was running. I was running on the Cape Cod Canal, which is in Massachusetts, and yeah, it was kind of like I said, it was an interesting point. It's funny that we talked about the most difficult times in life, creating, becoming order, becoming something beautiful, and it was a scary moment for me. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have a job. I knew I liked making videos. I knew I liked writing music. I knew I liked writing speeches. But like, I don't know how to monetize that. Like, I don't know what any of that means. It's like, okay, great, kid. You know what you like. Now what? And I was just running, thinking about it all. It's like, what do you want in life? And then I realized, like a lot of us do, that the way we internalize things becomes our life, our lives. It's like Jim Rohn has a great story about two brothers and they're both abused as children by their father. And one of them goes on to abuse his kids and the other one is a great father. And someone's talking to them and they're like, you guys, you have a very different track record. What happened? And the first one goes, well, my father abused me, so obviously I'm going to abuse my kids, right? And the second one goes, well, my father abused me, and I'm definitely not going to let my kids go through that, right? And it's all internalization, how you're looking at what your experience is. And I don't know, something clicked where it's like, I believe that your perspective can not only shape your life, but completely transform it. And I want to be a living example of that. And I want to tell stories and share my experiences in a way that can help other people get out of that. It's becoming more and more common. And I talk about this a lot in my stuff about the idea of victimhood. Whether it's particular political entities or specific groups, they want to tell you that you're stuck where you are, that life's against you, that because of what you look like or who you know or who you love, you don't really have a shot. And I think that's such a toxic, cancerous mentality that I wanted to be one of those people that pushes against it, right? That Will Smith sentiment that's like, look, we don't all have equal hands. We're not all starting at the same place. Life is inherently unfair. But guess what we can all do? Make the decision right now to improve. That's on us. Wherever we start, we can decide, am I going to do something about it or am I going to blame, point out. And so, I wanted that for myself. I wanted to say, Eddie, you don't know what the hell you're going to do with your life, but you're going to figure it out. And I also, in that very same idea, wanted to help other people do the same thing. And so to me, your world within encompasses that. Your world starts here and is projected out. Right? The movie reel in your head will become what you see. And I want everyone to know that. I want people to feel that and understand that. We're powerful, man. We're not victims,
Absolutely. People are either going to see themselves as victors or as victims. And
Yeah.
it's up to them, it's up to everyone. And it's sad that many people see themselves as victims. I mean, it's tough. I know it's not easy for them. They have been through a lot. People have been going through many things in their lives, but at a point they need to change their lives. They need to stop and say, hey, I'm not going to live the rest of my life like this. I'm not going to live the rest of my life just blaming people. I should hold myself accountable and be the pilot of my life and take things in my hands. This is everyone's own responsibility, and we really should be aware of this and spread the word and raise awareness. I love how you described the idea of your world within. It's so beautiful, and it's really the truth. Actually, your world within is your external world, right? If you're dark deep down, then you inevitably will be living a dark life.
Yeah. Oh man, I agree. I agree. And expressing that sentiment, on, and I hate continually referencing social media, but that's where our discourse happens now, right? I mean, that's like where conversation occurs. It's like social media. And, I could say things like that and people will say, well, Ed, you had it pretty good, man. Who are you to say that? And the reality is I did. I did have it good. I middle-class family, parents that loved me. I was never hungry at night. There are some things that I'm so blessed and so grateful for. And so 100%, that aside, let's say there's someone that doesn't have some or all of those things. Will they ever be better off being told, well, because of that situation, you're stuck? Hey, it's not your fault, it's their fault. And, you can't do anything about it. The system's against you. The government's against you. Your neighbor's against you. It's like, it doesn't help. It's antithetical to growth. And I think we need to be pushing back against that idea. Everything starts with belief in yourself, period. And I know that sounds corny. I know that sounds cliche, but if you don't believe you can change your life, no one's going to walk up to you and say, hey, I think you can change. I think there's better things ahead for you. That's just not how the world works, right? You have to see it and understand it first. And that's what we're doing, right? That's what you're doing with this podcast. I mean, we're trying to plant that seed. We're trying to tell people, hey, just because things are this way doesn't mean they're staying this way,
True, absolutely. I remember like weeks ago, I came across one of your videos that hits me different, and it's called "I Will Make You Proud."
That's one of my favorite videos, by the way.
I can feel that. I can feel that. I mean, I felt that the words were really coming straight from the heart, and I felt that I was the one speaking, and I'm sure many people out there have had the same feeling. And it made me wonder what Eddie has been going through at that time. What made you write that speech?
Yeah, it's the pressure and a feeling of inadequacy because of the standards that I've set for myself. And again, I don't think I'm some unicorn. I think we all do this, right? But it's like you have these expectations for yourself that continue to grow. And every day you have to live with the fact that you're not quite there yet. And it's hard. And it's like you stop paying attention to the little wins. You stop paying attention to, the beautiful little victories that get pushed off to the side, the little things. All you start focusing on is what you don't have. All you see is the gap between you and the finish line. And it's not a healthy way to live. And so that was a message like, look, kid, you have a long way to travel, and that's great, but you'll get there. Right. And similar to what we were talking about previously, it's like, don't forget to look around and see how incredible life is around you. Don't forget to look back and see how far you've come.
Yeah.
All these things matter. And that's what the idea is. The video, I'll Make You Proud, is like a letter to myself, saying, just hang with me, ride with me, be here for this, because we're both going to cross that finish line. Everything's going to be fine. It might even be better than we expected. And, we enjoyed the ride along the way. And, important message. I try and remind myself that a lot. And it's a lot of people have mentioned that as one that hit home for them, because I think we all set these crazy expectations for ourselves. And we shouldn't only look at what we're not, because we miss all the incredible things we are.
True. And sometimes some people do things not for them, but for the others.
Yes.
And is that a bad or a good thing? Like to be motivated to please, I would not say to please the others, but to make the others proud of you. I mean, we all have people that cares about us, people who care about us, and we love them and everything. But is it really a good thing to make or to do things in order to make other people proud of us?
It's hard to say. I think it's contextual, because like when it's to please others, when it's to impress your friends, I mean, you can see how that spirals off pretty quick. I mean, me personally, and I can really only speak to myself, like making my parents proud is a big inspiration for me. They're incredible supporters of mine. It's like they're my world, and I dream about being able to get them a house on the beach someday. And I want that. And it makes me proud. And on some of those days where I feel tired or I have a headache or I'm like, I don't really, I don't want to do much today. It's like, well, think about how beautiful that would be. And it puts me back on track. And it's like, all right, let's go, man. Let's go. And to me, it's like, however you can be incentivized, if it's healthy, it's tough to give a black and white answer, because if it's healthy, that gray line, especially with social, again, where so much of what we do is to kind of, flex in front of our buddies. And that's different. That leads to really overvaluing the short term at the expense of the long term, at the expense of purpose. And so I think it's finding that sort of happy medium and understanding what matters to you.
Yeah. And that is exactly what will help us continue going down the road and not stopping and not giving up. What would you tell to people who are about to give up on their dreams, or are about to give up on what they are doing because they have not seen the result they were expecting to see, and because things they get hard, because things are harder than they expected, because everything is going against them? What would you tell them? What would be your message to them?
I would have them ask themselves a question. Do you want to quit because you had the courage to try something and you said, whoa, this is not for me, right? The purpose is not there. I don't feel like myself. I'm not excited about this. Wrong journey, time to pivot. Because if that's the case, keep exploring, keep moving until you find your thing. There's the idea of sunk costs. Just because you start something and you've invested time, energy, and money does not mean you need to continue. So that's one response. The second piece is, if it is your dream and you know that, and you commit to that, then you just don't understand the price. And it's like, to get the gumball out of the machine, you have to put a quarter in. That quarter is, there's a lot that comes with it. And so anything of value, it's why greatness, however you interpret it, right? But let's say basketball, right? The greats. It's such an exclusive group. We can look at them and look at the Hall of Famers, and there's only a handful, because what they were willing to do, most people stopped and said, ooh, not that. That's a little too much. That's a little more than I'm willing to give. That price is a little higher than I'm willing to pay. Not them. They paid it. They were up at 4. They were shooting after games. They ate all the right things. They did their hour stretching regiments and lifting regiments and had coaches on so like it all depends. Where you end up will be directly proportional to the price that you're willing to pay. And that's a question that you need to ask yourself. If you're sure that your dream or your landing spot is where you want to be, understand what that means in terms of what it'll cost you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are going to taste and to feel some sort of pain anyways, but it's either the pain of working hard, of trying, of failing, or the pain of regret.
Regret lasts longer, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Many people forget about regrets, and they just make things much more complex than it is, and they just don't go for what they want.
It's like that ladder we were talking about, right? With like the fear. I mean, it's teaching your mind that that feeling in your stomach, that discomfort, it sucks, but it goes and it recedes quickly. It's like a wave in and out, right? But not doing something is there forever. It never goes away. That's something, a thought that'll be in your head, that what if, possibly forever, until you find the courage to go and do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just want to remind everyone who is listening to us, and whoever is going through any sort of struggle. You said that nothing lasts forever, and this is exactly what I want to remind today our people. Nothing lasts forever. Even the pain, even the worst thing that you are going through right now, one day it will just be a memory. It will just be a story that you are going to tell someone with pride, and right. Say, hey, look, I've been through a lot, but I'm here. I'm here standing still, and it didn't beat me up. I'm still willing to go and to do more, and nothing lasts forever. Even whether it's good or bad, nothing lasts forever. Everything has a moment, a period of time, then it vanishes. Whether it's sensations or feelings or even like material things.
Yeah, everything comes and goes. Lance Armstrong used to, and I know he's sort of a controversial character at this point, but he used to have a quote that says, "Pain is temporary, quitting is forever," meaning, like the suffering on the bike that you go through will go away, but if you decide, to lighten up, or you decide not to complete the race, or you don't go as hard as you possibly could, that'll always be in your mind. So it's an interesting way to kind of compartmentalize those two decisions,
Yeah. So I think we have been talking about many interesting things on this interview today. And if you would like to give our listeners one message today, what would it be?
Experiment. Life is not a checklist. Life is, I like to refer to it as a game. You're supposed to try things. You're supposed to explore. You're supposed to see what works and what doesn't, what you love and what you don't, and adjust. And just don't pigeonhole yourself. Really try and fully experience. I always point to that year of my life after leaving my job. It was the most important year of my life, and I floated around aimlessly like an idiot, right? Like I just tried things, and I explored, and I learned about myself. And I'm not saying you need to take a year to do that, but you'll miss out on a lot if you look at life as this sort of obligation and this checklist, and not this incredible opportunity with endless possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, don't be afraid of wasting time. Don't be afraid of trying new things in your life. I mean, as you say, life is an experiment. We need to experience things, and then maybe we'll find that there are things that we are really good at, But if we would never knew if we never tried it.
That's it. That's exactly it. And trying them takes courage.
It does. It does. It definitely does. Yeah. Well, Eddie, thank you so much for accepting the request again and for today's interview. I'm so thankful for this, and still can't believe that I've had this amazing conversation with you today. And I think at the beginning we said it's going to be like for about 45 minutes or something like that. It's like an hour now.
That's all right. It's all good. But hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it, and I love your podcast and what you're doing here. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Eddie. I really appreciate it. So I hope to see you soon, Eddie. And thank you so much. Take good care, Eddie.
Bye.
Bye.